We will be talking about iOS accessibility, switches, and recipes for assistive technology and AAC. I'm David Jackson with PATINS Project. Lisa Benfield usually presents this with me, but this is a one-off recording for the access to education. We are committed to making this presentation and its related materials accessible and to follow the principles of Universal Design for Learning, UDL. So a few of the things that you should experience today are slide presentations. We'll have simple backgrounds. Font will be easy to read. We'll have automatic captions available to you. Our links will be shortened. QR codes and hyperlinks will be easily to follow, and we'll provide multiple opportunities to see examples. And if you do have any questions, you can reach out by email at djackson@patinsproject.org. That's DJACKSON at PATINSPROJECT.org. Our agenda today, we'll have an introduction. We'll talk about access, how to connect to the iPad, different switches, a little bit of a discussion about mounts and apps. And then if you do have any questions, you can reach out by email to us. And we do have a Padlet. You can use your phone to scan the QR code on the screen, or you can go to tinyurl.com/ydx8rb23. That's spelled tinyurl.com/ydx8rb23. I'm David Jackson. I am a speech therapist, and I am the assistant director and a specialist. I focus on augmentative communication and also helping students that have orthopedic impairments access devices, the curriculum. Lisa Benfield generally presents this with me, but this is a recording for access to education. Lisa is an occupational therapist. She focuses, she's experienced in accessible education materials and assistive technology integration. Her primary area of focus is Apple accessibility and integration, and also helping students with emotional disabilities. PATINS stands for Promoting Achievement Through Technology and Instruction for All Students. Not just students with disabilities, but a lot of these principles are good for all students. Our mission is to support Indiana Public Schools in creating and sustaining an equitable learning environment for every student. We have quite a few services, and you're seeing this because you attended the fall conference, our Access to Education conference. We'll also have a conference in the spring, our Tech Ed conference, where we bring in companies and providers and vendors to show off the latest and greatest technology and software that they have out there. It's a free conference. That's usually in March. We offer individualized trainings. We have virtual office hours Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 10 to 11. We have the Aiming for Achievement grant, the accessible educational materials. We train them on UDL and accessible materials and provide lots of support for them and their students. We have the lending library. You can borrow equipment for 6 weeks at a time. Shipping is free both ways, so it's totally no cost to you. And number 5, there, the Indiana Center for Accessible Materials. That is part of the PATINS project, and they provide books and digital print materials that are accessible for students with blind, low vision, print disabilities, physical difficulties manipulating books. You can get large print books, braille books, audio, digital. We have an e-newsletter, blog. We have Tuesday evening Twitter chats. Come join us 8:30 p.m. for 30 minutes. Awesome interaction and professional development, sharing ideas. We also have a refurbished technology program. You can get refurbished computers and devices. We have a lot of tutorials available on our website and additional technical support in the areas of accessible educational materials, assistive technology, and universal design for learning. Every Student Succeeds Act, and all of the words and symbols and everything that you see on this all center around 2 words in the middle: equity and access. Having equity and access to students adds up to outcomes. And there's collaboration, instruction, curriculum, and assessment. All of those pieces are important in helping the student learn and providing them with the appropriate support and instruction. It's a shared responsibility, shared accountability, and high expectations. We'll be talking about switch access and accessibility on the iPad, orthopedic impairments belong to one of three different categories: neuromotor impairments, degenerative diseases, or musculoskeletal disorders. It's important to understand the differences between these because certain switches work better for some than others. And you can use some of the materials, resources at the bottom of this slide to help determine what your student needs are. One is called the Student Environment Tasks and Tools, also known as SET. It's from Joy Zabala. And Every Move Counts by Jane Corsten et al. I would suggest the first thing you do is create an accessibility shortcut on your iOS device. This will help you if you get into switch control or voiceover and you have trouble getting out. You can use this shortcut to turn those options off. So the instructions are: go to Settings, Accessibility, scroll down to the bottom, select Accessibility Shortcut, and then on the right side of the screen you can check the options that you want to have enabled, and then you can reorder those by touching and holding the little hamburger symbol, the three lines on the right, and you can put your most frequent one at the top of the list. Switches are categorized by either mechanical or electrical. So mechanical are the switches that you normally think about. You push a button, you hear it click. There's some that are low touch, like a plate switch. There's some that are electronic, proximity switches, muscle twitch, eye blink. Sip and puff switches, you might see somebody driving a wheelchair. And then there are also some switches that are activated by voice, sound, or even your breath. These are some examples of switches that are available. Big red on the top left there. In the top middle is the candy corn, that's a proximity switch. Electronic switches do require a power source. So that's battery operated, and you don't have to touch the candy corn, you just need to come close to it. And then you have an eye blink switch, a twitch switch, bottom left, plate switch, next to that fiber optic, and then the sip and puff on the wheelchair. There are a few different ways you can connect to the iPad. So this is a camera adapter, has a USB-C connector on the end, which is what it looks like. You look at the tip of it, and on the other end is a regular USB plug. You might think about a female USB plug. In the middle, that's a lightning connector, so you can get this adapter at the bottom either as a USB-C or a lightning, and you'll plug that directly into your iPad. You can use that camera adapter and then use this device called a Tapio, and this will allow you to plug in regular switches that have a 3.5 millimeter. On the switch on the right, the switch interface on the right is a Hook Plus switch interface from AbleNet. That plugs in directly to the iPad, and it already has ports on either side of the box. There are 4 ports, so you could have 4 switches connected to this. Another benefit of using the Hook Plus is that it has pass-through power, so you could be having your switches connected and having your iPad charged simultaneously. You can also direct connect to computers and communication devices. This is a CRIC software switch interface. You can plug this into a computer and use 4 different switches. Swifty looks something like the Tapio, and it works very similarly. And this is the Joy cable from SmartBox, and then this is an Accent 1000 PRC, and it has 2 switch ports built into it. You can also connect to most devices with Bluetooth switches, whether it's an iPad, an Android phone, a computer. There are several different Bluetooth switches available. The top left one here is the Bluetooth, and the red button on the right is called the iSwitch. That's from Inclusive Technology. That's also Bluetooth, and you can connect external switch to that. In the middle is a Magic Trackpad 2 from Apple. You can even connect a Bluetooth keyboard and assign the keys as switches. You can also connect with a Bluetooth mouse and use the camera adapter and plug in the receiver into the camera adapter and use your mouse. Now I'd like to talk about some of the accessibility features that are built into the iOS device, and then some of the features that you can access by using some of the switch interfaces. This is Ian McKay. He uses a lot of Apple devices. This is a really great video.
Wake up. Voice control is a breakthrough feature that gives you full control of your devices, with just your voice, period. It's a whole new way to do everything you love, period. Like this. Correct love. 16. Open photos. Scroll up. Show numbers. 13. Click share. 3. Tim. Next field. Let's ride this one today. thumbs up emoji. Click send. Open maps. Show grid. Long press at 20. Open app switcher. 4. Tap share. Tap Tim. Tap send. Hey, good to see you. Open music. Turn up the volume. All right.
So that's a powerful solution that is already built in to Apple devices. That's built into iPads, iPods, iPhones, and also Mac computers. On an iOS device, you would go into Settings, go to Accessibility, choose Voice Control, enable Voice Control, and then you can adjust some other settings to your needs. Some ideas that you could use not only with voice control, but really any device. You've all seen examples of Siri and things that you can say, but you could ask Siri to play a certain radio station. You can do this in Alexa. You can ask what the weather is. I had a student that asked, using his communication device, he would ask what the score was for the football game, and he would put the names of the teams in there. Siri would search that on the internet and give him the proper answer. You can also do environmental controls from your device. You can turn off the lights, unlock doors, open doors. You can do this with Alexa. Lots of different operations that you could do. You can set calendar events, alarms, reminders. Now I want to talk about head tracking, which again is built into the iOS device and the Mac OS. So these are the settings to get to switch controls so you can do head tracking. There's certain apps that work better with head tracking and have more features built into them. What I suggest is that you try some of these apps with your students and see if it works, and then if it does, you might consider going to a more robust. These work pretty well, but they do have some limitations. So this is a head tracking option. It's called Jabberwocky iOS AAC, and you can set this to be controlled by your head movement. iPhones 10 and above add the true depth camera, so iPhones 11, 11 Pro, iPad Pros, there's a little dot and it moves around, and you can set dwell, so you stare at it. That would be dwell, so you stare, select it. Or you could choose selection mode as a blink. Jabberwocky also does have a browser, and it works okay. Again, I think it's a good thing to trial. I don't know that I would use it all the time. It doesn't always work great for me, but it's similar to the AAC app, and you can use your head to control. You can blink or dwell to make your selections. I really like the head tracking capabilities on TouchChat HD AAC. It works really well. You need to have a device that has a true depth camera, but then you can enable head tracking under the menu bar in settings, and you get a little red dot. You have different choices: a crosshair, no, nothing. You can have a dot, crosshairs. You can set how the trigger action could be a hover, which is dwell. You could blink with your eyes, open your mouth, eyebrows up, tongue out, smile, or frown. I'm going to bring the iPad over to me in front of me on the computer, my desktop. So now I have it about 18 inches away from my face, and I'm moving my head around, and I have it set to eye blink. So I'm going to give you an example of head tracking. So if I go up here, that's a red triangle, so it's part of the screen is off, but it's a red triangle saying I'm off the iPad, so off to the left and off to the right. So I'm getting these warnings. So if I move around and I want to say the word stop, I'm just moving my head back and forth, and I blink my eye.
Stop.
Then
Stop.
I can make the selection there.
Stop.
So it works really well. And that is TouchChat HD AAC from Saltillo. Predictable 6. It has a lot of access method tools and settings that you can access and use, try out. Lots of different settings, options. We could spend an hour going over all of these, but this is really, really awesome app. And I'm going to pull app in here and show you what it looks like. Part of the screen that you're seeing here, let me zoom in a little bit here. Just trying to fit in the screen that I'm recording on. So you'll see a little yellow dot, and that's me using head control. And I do have this one set up to blink. So I'm going to go to the double trash cans. That will erase the whole message box there. And I'm going to say a sentence, I. So I blinked my eyes. And I'm going to say a sentence, I. It's a little bit slow when I have it connected with Reflector, how I'm putting this on the computer. It does make it a little bit slow. It's a little sensitive. I have been a little twitchy. But that option there you saw too, if I go up. Let me do something here. I'm going to show you something. It makes it a little easier for me to show you what I'm doing actually. Touch, assistive touch, I'm going to turn that on. Cancel. And now if I go back to predictable, now I can pull this around and show you. So I'm going to erase the message here with the double trash cans. And I'm going to type a sentence. I think that you are nice. So you see the keyboard here is set up for high frequency. And I see, nice. And a period there. I can use the speak button down here.
I think that you are nice.
Or if I am in a situation where I need to be quiet, I can use this button here, and it will display the words so that the person I'm communicating with can read it. But I wanted to show you how the head tracking worked with it. So that's predictable 6, and it does have the next screen here. It has a head tracking game built into it. It's nice to experiment with. Head Mouse Nano is from Origin Instruments. It's similar to some of the communication devices where you use head control. So you put the little gray dot, the reflective dot on your forehead or glasses, and the camera can see that, and you can control the mouse with your head movement. So this works on Mac, Windows, Android, and iOS. There's some different software programs that you can install on the computer. You see a computer keyboard there, and you can do mouse control. By clicking one of these, it would be like left click, right click, double commands that you would do with a mouse. Head tracking is built into Mac computers, so you would access that through System Preferences, and then go to Accessibility, choose Pointer Control, and then with these two top options here on the right, Mouse Trackpad, Alternate Control Methods, choose Alternate Control, and you would be able to enable the head pointer and control your Mac computer with head control. You can also do head control with Camera Mouse. This is software and it's free. It uses the camera that's built into your laptop, or if you do a USB camera, that'll work too. You pick a point on your face that has a high contrast, like dark versus light, and you can control your mouse. And those selections would be by dwell. It's free, worth a try, and if those things work, then you can consider purchasing or trialing something more expensive, more robust. These definitely aren't perfect, but they do give you a good idea. As I was doing some research, I came across this guy. There's some software that you can install on your computer, and you can use your head control settings on your iPhone, and you can do that while you're playing a game. So this has head control, so it's like you're sitting in the cockpit and you can look around as you're flying the jet, but you're using head control from your iPhone. So think about some of the kids that you're working with that don't have access to games, or you're using some of those really young, immature games for some of the older kids that really want more age-appropriate games. This is something that might be interesting for them. Hawkeye Access uses eye gaze on iOS devices with the True Depth camera. It's worth a try. It's kind of hit or miss with me. I'm using my eyes to navigate on the screen, so it's a little bit wonky. You know, it's free. It's something worth looking at. Now here's a bonus. Did you know that you can connect PlayStation or Xbox controllers to your device? I don't have a video for this, but I did do it with the PlayStation 4. I connected it to one of my iPads and played a driving game. And if you follow the instructions here about Bluetooth pairing, you'll be pretty amazed about how it works. So again, think about some of those students that want to play games that their peers are playing, and they want to use game controllers like their peers are doing. There are different ways you can adapt these controllers. Here's a really cool video from a guy named Christopher Hills about switches.
Via controls menu in iOS 11 to play their favorite playlist. Yellow Hat opens their favorite game on iPad, uses the refined point mode in iOS 11, and competes with Blue Hat for a high score. New point mode, Green Hat can now react to a Facebook post. Red Hat uses extended predictions in iOS 11 to help compose a bio for their dating website profile. White Hat just got their first iPad. They turn it on, mount it, plug enable Nethook Plus in, and tap their switch. iOS 11 knows they need switch control, and automatically turns it on so they can set up their iPad independently. Green Hat is nonverbal, and uses Type to Siri to ask what the name of the song they hear is.
I'm pretty sure this is Feel It Still by Portugal, The Man.
White Hat can use their Apple TV to start a movie without sight or touch. Wait, what? Did I read that right?
Subtitles and captioning. Audio descriptions, off. Press select. Subtitles and captioning. Audio descriptions, on. TV, movies, on 1. Press select. Play. 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 Selected. Press select. Play. Play. Selected.
Bright light flares at the edge of an S as letters orbit on metal platforms in front of a fiery sun. The letters break from...
Red Hat films video with their drone. Pause scanning in iOS 11 has allowed them to increase their scanning speed so they can perform flight maneuvers faster. Blue Hat is working on writing a script with Yellow Hat. Blue Hat has finished their section and hands the iPad over to Yellow Hat, who uses platform switching from their iPhone to connect to the iPad. When they do, the iOS 11 keyboard automatically shows extended predictions. Blue Hat unlocks his iPhone 10 with their face, and so can Red Hat, Yellow Hat, Green Hat, and White Hat.
Powerful message Christopher Hills presents. He has a lot of videos on YouTube, and he is also a video editor. I'm sure he did all of this video himself. I like this because it's an inexpensive way to try switch access by using a mouse with your iPad. So you can use a wired USB mouse, you can use a Bluetooth wireless mouse with a receiver, or you can use just a straight Bluetooth wireless mouse like the Apple mouse on the far right of the screen there. In order to do this, you will need the lightning connector or the camera adapter, the instructions there. After inserting the camera adapter into your iPad, you can connect your USB mouse. You will go to accessibility settings and go to pointer devices, choose USB optical mouse. And if you have a 3-button mouse, which is what most mice, you have a left, a right click, and a wheel that you can scroll, and you can also press that as a button. That would be a 3-button mouse. You can assign those buttons to do different things. And you see in this example here, the left button is a tap, the middle button is app switcher, and then the right button is screenshot. So I set this up when I was making PowerPoints, and so if I'm doing this on my iPad, it's really easy to take a screenshot. I don't have to use two hands to do the screenshot button. There are definitely a lot more controls that you can get into pointer control. You can change the appearance, you can change a lot of the functions of the pointer control based on your students' needs, visual control, hand control. You can change several different parameters. You can also enable dwell on the iPad, and what that means is you would hover the pointer, the red circle here, you would hover that over the button that you would like to click. But if you can't click with the mouse, but you could have a gross movement where you could move the mouse just with your hand, then you could hover and move that to the point you want. And when you have dwell turned on, the red circle, you can see it goes clockwise around, and it shows you it's dwelling, and it's going to tap that button. Here's some other details about dwell, some options. I wanted to mention that you can set up dwell and other accessibility features on Chromebooks. I don't have a Chromebook here, but these are pretty detailed instructions, so you can refer back to these. Some more instructions on dwell on Chromebook. A couple slides here. When you use the camera adapter, you can plug in really any USB device. So this is a trackball, has a USB plug on the end. So you could use a trackball and left and right, the blue buttons here, as your left and right on a mouse. You can also, on this particular device, Big Track 2, you can, from AbleNet, you can insert external switches. So you could use the trackball to move, but if you couldn't access the blue buttons very well, or you needed some other different kind of switch, you could plug in other switches. You can also use trackpads with iOS devices. These here, you can use on computers. Windows, you have more features available to you, and this is an Apple Trackpad 2. You can connect that to your iPad, and these are some of the things that you can do with the Apple Trackpad. All the things that you would normally do on the computer, you can do these also on the iPad. So there's differences between Trackpad 1 and Trackpad 2, the newer version. All right, let's get into the settings of switch control. So you're going to go into settings, you go down to number 2 here, accessibility. Then under accessibility, you'll look at the physical and motor section here, number 3, and then switch control. That's where we're going to be working in next. Use switch control in the iOS settings. First off, I want to show you the Tapio, and you'll use the camera adapter and plug that into the iPad, and you'll plug in a switch. This is a specs switch, small, and you follow these instructions. When you're in switch control, you'll tap switches, add new switch, select external because this is an external switch. You can also choose screen or camera as a switch, but we're going to be doing external. Then you click the switch, you name it, and then go back and turn on switch control. And you should get some settings here. Oh, errant slide. Tapio, you also might have to adjust some of the settings, the dip switches here, based on what device or app that you might be using. Sometimes you have to get in there to change a few things. But turning on switch control and scanning, you also have this option of single, refined, and precise. Single is definitely quicker. I typed this sentence on the AAC app Snap Plus Core. Took me 28 seconds. Using the refined mode took 36, and precise was 45 seconds. So each of those, it adds more layers of pinpoint accuracy in scanning. Some students may need that pinpoint accuracy depending on how small of items are on the screen, and sometimes you may need just the single and to be quicker. So the scanning looks like this. So once it starts scanning, it'll go from left to right, and you click the switch, and then it will do the second, then it'll go horizontal. It takes several clicks, but that's what the point scanning looks like. Now I want to talk about scanning with 2 switches. You have to add the second switch. So we already added 1, and you'll go back and go through the same steps we did previously to add the second switch. And so you see in the picture here, I have the red rectangular switch, and then I have a blue switch. So the red is my mover, and the blue is my selector. And you see on the screen there a blue rectangle around those apps on the screen. So as I hit the red button, it scans through that row, and then if I hit the blue button, it would start scanning each folder across, and then I would hit the blue button again, and I would select. A lot of these switches and these solutions that you're learning about today, the best way to learn this is through trial and error. It doesn't always work perfectly. There are some things, some caveats. It does work for the most part, and it works pretty well. Now I'd like to talk about connecting a Bluetooth, that's the model of the switch, Bluetooth switch. So these are the instructions, and this link down at the bottom gives you even more detailed instructions and ideas. I'm going to summarize them in the next few slides. What it does, it's very powerful. It's the switch that has a white button and an orange button, and you can program these to do lots of different things. For accessibility is create recipes, and these are under switch control. And recipes allow you to tell the iPad that you're doing more than you really are. So if you have something where you need to use 5-finger swipe or pinch or zoom, you can program those in and access those commands by just using a switch. But I'm going to show you a few examples of how recipes can help kids, especially in the area of literacy. The instructions are here. So you make sure that switch control is turned off, and then we're going to go into recipes and we'll set that up. So it's going to look like this. Let me get out of this and I'll show you real quick. So under settings, you're going to go over here under accessibility, and then you're going to go over here to switch control, and then right up here recipes, and you'd have one that says turn pages, and you would assign your switches, which I've already done with the white and orange. You can choose, I've chosen custom gesture because I needed to tweak the movement a little bit, because what they have, the right to left swipe and the left to right swipe, it didn't move quite far enough for some of the books. So I changed it, customized it. So that custom gesture, so I put my finger on there when I recorded the gesture, and I moved my finger across like that, and it records that movement, and it assigns it to that switch. Switch control is turned off. I go to recipes up here, and I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to launch recipe, and I'm going to do turn pages. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to turn on switch control. Well, actually, see, this was one of those caveats. See, I can't turn it on because I have assistive touch on. So I need to get out of here, go down to touch, turn assistive touch off. And the only reason, one of the reasons I had that on was so I could show you where I was going on the iPad. But now I'm going to go back up at the top and turn on switch control. And you see switches are configured for this recipe for turn pages. I'm going to go to my book. I have two switches. When I click one, it's going to turn the page. I'm going to click the right one. So you saw that red, that's the recipe that I recorded, the custom gesture. So I'm turning that, I'm turning the page. I can turn my other switch and I can turn the page back. So that is in iBooks. So that would work with anything in iBooks, and you can turn on other accessibility settings. But now I want to go to another book, just a little critter book. So I'm going to press my turn the page button. So this really gives students a lot more independence, and it might get them hooked into some books. They can do this on their own. So this worked with iBooks. This has worked with Ocean House Media app books. So I can go back. I can turn the page. The screen is interactive, but I can't do that with the switches. And I'll show you another literacy tool that you can use. We're going to go to Tar Heel Reader. I'm going to choose a book, and now I'm going to turn the page. And it's not going to work. Go back one. Yeah. Yep. So it works here, and I can turn the speech on and have it read to me.
Space junk. We live on the planet called Earth. Earth has one natural satellite.
I had the recipe set up as the swipe, but you can also set the recipe up as just a point. I could make it as a point, like I'm just touching the next arrow button. And we'll look at a recipe here in just a second, and I will show you how that works. So that's recipes with books. You can also do a recipe with GarageBand, and you see these little yellow post-it notes on here. This is where you're creating a custom recipe. This is so think about this with really any game. If there's a certain part of the screen that the student needs to tap, you can do what I'm going to show you here. So I'm going to, like you saw in the first picture, I'm going to just keep my fingers over these areas on the iPad. So I'm going to hold my fingers there over these two drums so you can hear it. I'm just going to hit those. So I'm going to go back, get out of here. I'm going to go into recipes. I'm going to create a new recipe. I'm going to call it drums. I'm going to assign a switch. I'm going to say orange. And then I'm going to select custom gesture. And you remember where the drums were right here. Hit that a couple times. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back, and we see drums here as a recipe. I'm going to plug my switch back in, and I'm going to turn on drums, recipe. Drums is on, launch recipe, turn switch control on. Now I'm going to go back to the app. I'm not sure which switch. There we go. So I hit the switch, and I get to play the drums. So you can do this for any of the musical instruments that are listed in here. So you can do this same kind of thing with strings. You could make a gesture where you're tapping these. You could turn something on over here on the autoplay. Turn that off. So that is recipes with GarageBand. And now some of the games, the kids want to play games that everybody else is playing, not just the kids' games and the toddler games and stuff like that. So this is a game, and you just have to do your research and find games that kids are playing, games that look familiar, popular. Look at the kind of controls and the way that they interact with them. This one is just a two button kind of game. So you run and jump, run and jump. So you see the icon there on the screenshot on the right. So I've connected and put a recipe in the iPad for 2 switches and called it Fast Like a Fox. So there's 2 different ways. You can tap the back of the iPad like you run, or here on the right you can do this touch, and this is the screen you get. You get jump on the left half of the screen and run on the right half of the screen. So I did a recipe, and I just tapped one time on the right half of the screen and a recipe for the left half of the screen. And that's what you see here under recipes. And I'm sorry I wasn't showing you on the iPad what I was doing. So I went over here to recipes. I chose Fast Like a Fox, and you see I have custom gestures. Make sure timeout is turned off. Go back and make sure switch control is turned on. And then I swipe up from the bottom and I launch Fast Like a Fox. I'm using the free version, so it takes just a second. Now some of these games, the student is not going to be totally independent with it using this method. We may have to help them a little bit, but we can get them started. And so now here I am. So I'm going to have to run. So see, I have the button, and I chose that red button down at the bottom because when I get to the end of this game, there's a button there that says keep going or next level. So you might have to think about that. So it's going to function as a run button, but it's also as a let me play again button. And now the other button, I jump. So I'm using 2 switches. And these switches, maybe we need different switches, for a game like this. Now you see at the bottom there where it says next level, that's where I put my custom gesture. So when I push the button, it takes next section. So that's recipes with games. You can do that with any kind of game. It doesn't have to be this game. It can be any game where you have to touch the screen or do something like that to interact with it. I'm not really going to talk a whole lot about device mounts and switch mounts. You can borrow a lot of this stuff from the lending library. If you have specific questions, you can reach out to me. You can email me or check out our website, the PATINS Project website. There are a lot of things to consider when you're looking at switches, but you want to look for good controlled movement, accurate, reliable, repeatable, efficient movement. Even if they're accurate, but it takes a lot of energy, it's not going to be a good switch selection. And you can refer back to the set framework and every move counts. That will help you determine some of the switches that you might consider. And you can borrow these switches from the lending library, 6-week trial, free shipping both ways. So they're mechanical switches, like the Big Red, specs, some smaller ones that are lighter weight, and certainly you can have some switches that have voice output on them, and some mechanical ones here. You can touch anywhere on that and make it activate. This is a really, really lightweight one. I don't remember, 1.2 ounces of force, I think, for the ultralight. So not a lot of force is needed, but also the trade-off is it's not very durable. So if you have somebody that's going to be hitting it pretty hard, you wouldn't want to use this kind of switch. Then you have switches that go in the head array of wheelchairs. You can drive with switches in here, additional switches for different things, and sip and puff for driving. There's some electronic switches. Electronic switches need battery or power source. This is a proximity switch called the candy corn. So you come close to it, it's like you're touching it. So somebody that can just barely raise their finger up, you could put this right above their finger so they just barely raise it up just a little bit, or just move their head just a tiny bit. This AbleNet mini beamer, you can do direct select. You can make it a latch timer. You can make it a proximity. It's a proximity switch also. Another proximity switch from AMDI. This switch lights up and it vibrates. There is This sensor switch, some people call them twitch switches. It looks at muscle movement. So you tape these to the skin, and I used this with a student. He raised his eyebrows and moved his hand as a mover and a selector. This is a movement sensor switch and a fiber optic switch. You can put this inside a desk or a hand rest, and it can register very, very small movements. I was looking around the internet, just saw this a couple days ago. Air switch, you just exhale into it and it activates. There are eye blink switches with different sensitivity settings. Again, a power source is required. Eagle eyes is a switch. It sort of uses your eyes. You're not really controlling it with your eyeballs where you're looking, but what it does, it uses 5 sensors like we looked at the sensor switch, and those are taped on your face. And so the muscle movements from your eye movement triggers the switches. It measures muscle movement. And that's another good trial device, and we have this in the lending library as well. So there's different settings you can get into there. And then there are a lot of resources here for switches. Selecting experiential activities will take you to the Ian Bean website. That's spelled IANBEAN.co.uk. And there are tons of resources here. So this is the home page, and if you scroll down a little bit, you have some online activities that you can use for switches, touch screen, mouse, and eye gaze. So clicking on this, you have lots of different things that would be of interest to various students. So if we look at the first one up at the top left, characters and music from films, and I'm going to choose Move It here at the top left. You'll see you have these options for different switch access. So pressing a button, using a mouse pointer, eye gaze. You can also change the icons so that they're targets rather than the character faces. So let's change back to the character face. I'll show you what a switch looks like. And now I could have a switch connected to this, or I could use a keyboard. I'm on a computer right now, so I'm just going to hit the keyboard. And that'll play for a little bit. You can choose to have the mouse pointer like this, and if you set it on there, you'd have to click. I'm going to get back out of that. And then if we do eye gaze, this one is dwell. So if you see the mouse here, so you could work on a student and you could do the mouse and have them stare at it. So when I bring this over the character, you'll see dwell as it changes. Now if I choose the target, it will make a target here instead of the character. Those are the movies and songs and stuff like that. So if we go back a page, 2 pages rather, well actually you can scroll down here. There are some other scanning and switches options here. Lots of things here to work on switches. Single switches, 2 switches, great resources. We're going to go back to the home page, and I'm going to scroll down a little farther, and you see these black and white symbols in the middle. These are the Sen Switcher games that I first remember experimenting with. But when you click on this, you have these different levels, and you can do these for teaching different switch skill levels. So experiential activities, you have all these settings. In each of these, you can change the background color and the foreground color. High contrast, you can change the animation length over here on the far left. I usually keep that at 5 seconds. You can change these icons to be sequential or random. You can deselect some that you don't want to show. And then when you click go, you'll see it will start playing, and you do have some sound as well. And then you just hit the keyboard and it keeps going. Close that, and you can see there's lots of other activities and things that you can try. You do have an option to download some of these games and these solutions. So I went back to the home page. Scroll down, here are the ways to download these. Some are available on Windows and Mac, some just Windows. There's even more additional resources down at the very bottom of Ian Bean's website. Resources for switch skills, touch skills, eye gaze, and patron rewards. You know, there's free apps with limited features, and sometimes they try to get you to, they hook you with a free app and they try to get you to upgrade. Sometimes those upgrades are a one-time price, one-time payment. Sometimes they try to get you a monthly subscription. So think about those things and whether it fits your needs or your student needs. I do suggest that if they have trial versions, check them out, get into the settings, try everything on there, see what works, what doesn't work for you. Try it with switches. There are some apps that work well with switches, some that don't. These are some of the switches that I have, switch games and things that I have on one of my iPads. Switch Trainer here, that's a decent one. There's a free version. Help Kids Learn. they have a lot of apps. So most of these apps down here are from Help Kids Learn. A lot of these are free and they work really well with switches. Tap and See Now is a favorite app for students with cortical visual impairment. There are all kinds of settings and controls that you can adapt in there for colors, background, size, movement, sounds, and such. Here is Help Kids Learn. A lot of their apps look like this. So you have a settings, and then they have switch settings. Some of them have single switch, some are two switches. But there are no words. The characters speak, but it's kind of gibberish. It's not any particular language. A lot of these are free, definitely worth a look. This is one of my favorite apps from Help Kids Learn. I paid for it because I got so many free ones from them. I really like this one because you can use two switches. Settings button here, and choose two switches. I'm going to close that, choose play. And you see as I mouse through, I'm using the white button on the Bluetooth switch. I'm going to choose green with the orange button. But when you have two switches enabled on this app, it grays out some of the options that are not available. It gives me an auditory prompt that says, hey, I'm here. What are you doing? Some of the tracks there that are options are green. So I can scroll through these, choose this one, and you see how the options change. And I can build my track. And I need to get one up. It's grayed out because I can't put any more track on there. So I'm going to move through. Well, it was already sitting on play. Push play. So I'm doing all of that. So I'm able to play this game with two switches. I don't have to touch the screen. I was using the Bluetooth, but you can do regular switches with that too. So that's Train Tracker, and you can also use RJ Cooper. I don't think I have that one on this iPad, but this is an app that's works pretty well with switches, scan to pictures. Lots of options built in there. Now this one you do need to touch the screen. You could do some custom gestures for this. We've looked at before, but you have different options here. No music or sound, just the lights, the visual, play music or play sound effects. Multi-touch and single touch up there at the top, so you can have more than one hand playing this. You know, if we ever get back to where you can have kids playing together, you could have two kids playing this. So that's the orange one. I'm grabbing it with my finger. Oops. Go back over here. So I'm grabbing the orange one. We'll grab the blue one. And now I'm going to grab red and green. And the white one at the top acts as an eraser. That's finger paint with sounds. Talked about this one earlier, Tap and See Now. It was designed for students with cortical visual impairment. And I'm going to show you settings here, the settings button. You see the bottom half is grayed out because this is the light version, but you see they have a lot of options that you can select and change. You can change the characters. You have all of these different characters and sounds you can change. See on the screen, applause, baby laugh, baby giggle. And you can change the characters, but it's grayed out. They have different animals that you can select. You can change the size and the speed. There's a slider here on the top right. You can select the speed. And you can change the colors. That's the really nice thing about this. I'm going to play, so you see the red bear bouncing on the screen, he's going up towards and hits the left side of the screen, top, and bounces down. So I have to tap that. I'm trying to tap other places on the screen, but I have to hit the bear directly. And so you can change the feedback, the size, what the action of the touch produces. So that's Tap and See Now. Another app that's really good with switch accessibility is Snapscene. This is a stock page that it comes with here. We see the settings, and if I do the little drop down here on the right and go to settings, I'm going to go to access method on the left, and I've got scanning, and I'm going to choose two switch step scan. Now you'll see that this one doesn't work quite perfectly. Close that back up. So if I scan through here, this goes yellow, green, orange, purple, and then back, and then it goes back over here. And so it's not perfect. You really have to be watching what you're doing on this one. So if I want to choose red, move, red. And then I have it set up so it starts from the last spot you're at. Move, select, pink, move. Snap scene, make each picture a hotspot. So you can take a picture if you're teaching something, read a book, you can make hotspots, take a picture real quick, and then make these. It's called Snap Scene, and those are some of the settings we talked about there. So there are quite a few things to consider. Here are the resources that are available. I tried to cover everything that I mentioned in this presentation. Wanted to remind you, you've already been to it, Access to Education. Our Tech Expo is in April next year. Hopefully it'll be in person. We have our vendors. It's a really good session to come to. PATINS is part of the Indiana Resource Network. There are a lot of organizations that are fully funded or partially funded from the state of Indiana. Reach out to one of these Indiana Resource Network organizations. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'm David Jackson. My email is there, djackson@patinsproject.org. That's DJACKSON at PATINSPROJECT.org. You can reach out to Lisa Binfield for Apple accessibility questions. You can follow us on Twitter at PATINS Project, or hashtag PATINS ICAM, hashtag #PATINS ICAM. You can like us on Facebook. You can check us out on PATINS TV, and we have Twitter chats Tuesday nights at 8:30 from 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m.